be there. That was my belief. It didn't happen for a whole bunch of reasons, but not least of which was my level of consciousness, I think. My state of being. I was just hanging on too tight. Like a lot of professional athletes, you just want it so bad you can taste it. You're too much into it. So that didn't work for me, and I was bitter and twisted and angry and pissed off. And am I over it yet? Maybe it's still there. Maybe I'm not over it. I don't know. But the point is, I had to forge another life. So I was doing a commerce degree and the other stuff in the idiot factory, the education indoctrination zone, where the Bachelor of Commerce, and then I did CPA, and I did Postgraduate Diploma of Finance, and all this putrid excrement that was of no value whatsoever to me in terms of delivering value to people, yeah? I worked as an accountant, luckily not to shoot myself in the head, because that was one of the most depressing periods of my life. I'd go and have a sleep in the toilet so I could train better later on. It was really not my personality type, let's say. Then I went into consulting for big companies, 2 big companies. I then went out on my own and started consulting and coaching to small businesses. So people that are turning over anywhere from $1 million to $30 million. The point of this story is I became a published author along the way, stroke my ego and say, I'm an internationally published author. It's important to some people. It's just another thing in life. But it opened up a bunch of doors to me for all sorts of purposes. So what I really wanted to make a point out of this was, in doing this, I had the role of getting North in their attitude, their capability, business owners. Yeah, their businesses are always a reflection of who they are as a person. Yeah, and some of these guys were netting $1 million a month, and yet when I'd look into their eyes, I'd see a guy who was more tormented than I was. Yeah, who was no wiser, no healthier, no happier. Their relationships were often shot to pieces, and they're looking to me for guidance. Yeah, I'm already down the rabbit hole of spirituality and consciousness and a whole bunch of things to get myself out of the mental malaise that I was in from a failure, if that's what I wanted to call it. So what I realised from that is that this materialism and consumerism dog shit that's been forced down our throat is not only not right, but it's caustic and destructive, and it just destroys people. And if it was a younger room than this, I would say this is one of the most important things you could ever get, but I suspect most of us in this room actually get that. But that really led me on to a greater search for what is consciousness, what makes you happy. And therein lies the problem, because in the Western world we're taught to chase happiness, but happiness is contingent upon a certain outcome. You can't be happy until, and that's the malaise that most of our mental state is in. Part of my researching what is a state that you want to be in included some of the Eastern spirituality gurus. They might be in Buddhism, they might be in Hinduism, it doesn't matter what they're in, they might be Chinese. But typically their perspective is, you don't want to be chasing happiness, you always be chasing. You want to be joy. This is a state. This is a state. It is in your control. It's not dependent or contingent on externals. You are it. We'll try and do it, and it's a bit harder. So, I want to introduce you to this seminal work. Is anyone familiar with Power versus Force? It's by a doctor, don't you know? He's both MD and PhD, piled high and deep. Now, let's not hold that against you, because some of them do actually prosper to the Hippocratic Oath rather than the hypocritical oath. But why I love this is because of, he stumped up something in here which he calls the consciousness map. You know, and when you start talking about consciousness and the like, it can become a bit of a slippery fish. And I'll just let me put this up.